today. Welcome to everyone who's in the comfort of their home, sipping tea, and to those who made it back to church. It is good to be back in this fellowship home. So if you weren't with us last week, we talked about praise and ended with joyous praise in Psalm 150. Now we're going to enemies. So you all come prepared today. I know that we're such nice people that we don't have enemies. You know, when people, if you watch those crime shows ever, and someone kills someone, my husband's addicted to crime shows, 24 hours ID and all that, they'll always say, well, did he have any enemies? Or can you think of anyone who wanted to kill him? And first I go, no, he had no enemies. And then it's like, well, maybe the ex or maybe whatever. But so we're going to talk about enemies today as seen in the Psalms. And we find that they exist online. So this is part one. Psalms 3, 18, and 109. And we'll see, we'll start at 10:17. Okay. So today we're doing personal enemies, whereas next week it's going to be the enemies of God. So personal enemies. So that should apply to all of us. And in Taylor's book, he talks about, he says, in our communities, we generally fall into two camps, right? And the next slide says, it's people who see enemies everywhere. Everyone's an enemy. My neighbor, my boss, my relatives, whatever. Anyone who disagrees with me. Those annoying, irritating people. That neighbor who plays music loud at night. All are enemies. So that's one, and then they feel that opposition. But then there are the people, the other camp, where we don't talk, we don't use that language. It's not nice. And we don't want to talk about it. It seems impolite to even think of someone as an enemy, and very unbecoming of someone who's spiritual. And for a Christian to have enemies, that's just not right. So those are kind of the camps a lot of the time. Is what David Taylor says. And I just wonder if anyone, what camp are you in? Or what camp did you grow up in? Or what are your thoughts just right off the bat about enemies? Any thoughts? Yeah.
We didn't have enemies.
You didn't have enemies. Okay.
We had people that we might be in conflict with, but we would never call them enemies.
Okay, y'all are nice people. Flannery O'Connor writes one of our short stories, Good Country People, and we find out that they're not really so good, as we aren't so good. Anybody else have experience?
The deeper I go into Psalms, I just realized my family was pretty much emotionally neutral, which I don't think is good. So of course I didn't have an enemy.
Okay, so they were either hot or cold.
Yeah.
Just neutral.
Spew us out, right?
Okay, so no enemies there. Anybody? Okay.
So I usually trust everyone until they give me a reason not to trust them.
Okay.
And then I still try to love them, but I just avoid it.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, until they give you a reason. Okay. Yeah.
I think as children, we see other children sometimes in middle school and high school, but then as you grow and mature, you realize they're not really enemies. It's just your perspective changes.
Okay. Okay. Good. And just think about to yourself right now. You consider yourself a person that has enemies. So just think right now, not going back to your childhood and thing. Are you someone who has enemies, or who even allows that thought to cross your mind? So the next slide, just have a little fun here. That's one of my personal enemies to the left. Yeah, there could have been a lot of other ones there, but and the right is just really a joke. They're from Atlanta. You of course know who's in charge there. In the middle, that would be a personal enemy. To me, just look like a really obnoxious anti-masker. One of those who says, you're wearing a diaper on your face or whatever. So that really provokes a response in me. Okay, so I'm looking for how to play my little clip.
You wanna,
It should have a link. I don't know if that's.
you want a link in the next one?
Yes, it's a. I just thought I'd show a little clip from a movie that
Oh, okay, hold on 1 second.
when I was a teacher, I worked a lot with student retreats and I can remember early on in my career at Ash, we had a leadership retreat with students, and when we had some downtime, we said, "There's this movie you gotta watch." It's got Adam Sandler in it. And it's been around a while. It's called Billy Madison. And I thought, oh, please don't make me watch this movie. But there are a lot of interesting things from it, believe it or not. And so I have this one clip.
I don't see it. Is it in the, it's supposed to be at the bottom of the PowerPoint?
When I checked the thing that I sent Catherine, she said she was able to put that.
Okay, let me look here again.
It's a clip, and Billy Madison had, I can't remember all the premise, but as an adult, to get some, inherit his father's money or something, he has to go back to kindergarten, go through all the grades or something. I guess he learns a lot of lessons. So in this clip, he, as an adult, he's remembering what a nasty person was in high school. And I remember when I first started teaching, I went back and tried to find a student teacher that I had, and I thought I was just obnoxious and shouldn't have been. And after I taught long enough to know that it's not fun to be on the other side of that, I tried to see her and say, "I'm so sorry. I was really immature. And I hope you'll forgive me for making life miserable. Just a little bit. I got paid back."
Do you have the clip on yours? Because it's not showing in any of the slides.
Well, the best thing except
Nope, you can do whatever you want to do.
if I go to my stuff,
Oh, well, no one will see, but we can hear.
no one will see it there.
Yeah, what's the, can you put it in the chat window real quick, or what is it? Here, I'll get it.
Well, if people pull out, they won't be able to see it, but
Okay, I can put it in the email.
put it in the email, yeah. I'll just tell you, so you got the character, and Adam Sandler calls up his friend, oh, well, this guy from high school. And he says, "Hi, I might not remember me, but in high school, and I did some pretty stupid things that I thought were funny at the time. And I realize now that they weren't funny and that they were mean and hurtful. And I just like to apologize and I hope you'll forgive me." And the guy goes, "Well, yeah, okay." And he goes, "Oh, wow, cool." You won't expect that response. And he says, "Well, maybe we could get together, go have coffee or something." And he goes, "Okay." And he goes, "All right, well, thanks. Well, I hope to see you around. And again, I'm really, really sorry. And thanks for your forgiveness." Hangs up the phone. The guy looks kind of weird, played by Steve Buscemi, I think. And he's looking at it, and he goes over to this list that he's made, and on the top it says, "People to kill." And he's got like a list of 10 names, I guess.
Is that it?
Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Wow.
All right.
Way to go, Lisa.
Oh, wait, you know what? Hold on a second.
What was that?
The sound, let me do it.
You left us there with the people to.
Sorry.
It's perfect timing.
I gotta do it on,
Okay.
it's the audio, that's the issue.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
Don't
just
share
keep on
it.
talking, I'll have to
Just
do
keep
the
on,
movie,
just skip
yeah.
it.
No,
We'd
I'd
like
like
to
to
hear
hear
it
it
from
here.
I know, I'm trying to think that, it's an audio issue, so I have to do it on the owl.
So
I can
my
do it
thing says click to join audio. If I click that,
No,
No.
it'll interfere.
no.
You know, I wonder, I was listening to Chuck Swindoll, I haven't heard him in a long time this morning, but he was talking about jealousy and envy. And he was kind of defining the difference between the two. And I got to thinking, I knew we were studying enemies today, how many of my enemies I am actually jealous of or envious of. And I don't, And then I discovered one, so I went into confession. So,
Okay.
yeah,
No, that's a very good point, because I think so too, it's, when we look at some of the Psalms that are coming up, we'll see some of the horrible things that Psalmist David wished upon his enemies. And we probably couldn't imagine that, but there are probably times when we have been jealous of someone, we thought, gosh, I hope she doesn't get the promotion, or I hope she doesn't get that award, because I really deserve it. You know,
Right.
this person's all about advertising how she should get it and so forth. And I think those are the kind of things that really sneak up on us when we think, it's not an enemy, but
Yeah.
it is.
All right, let's try one more time.
Another thing to think about, and you may be talking about this, if we have enemies, is if we are somebody, if somebody sees us as their enemy.
That's a great point. If we ever get to this thing, I think Billy Madison probably went through his whole life and he's not really thinking that this person has to be on a list of people to kill. But then he does go scratch his name off.
We'll try one more time.
Okay, and then if it doesn't work,
ta-da.
Hello? Hi, is this Danny McGrath? Yeah. The Danny McGrath that graduated from Dave High School in 1984? Yeah. Who's this? This is Billy Madison. You probably don't remember me, but I went to high school with you.
Here, I'll make it one. Oh,
Louder.
sorry. Yeah, let me get louder. Here, I'll make it louder. Hold on 1 second.
We lost the picture.
Yeah, that was me. Hold on 1 second.
Lord save.
Okay. One more time. Okay. let's do this.
Oh, you smarty. No more for you, Mary Beth.
sorry, I hope this isn't a letdown.
Hi, this is Danny McGrath. Yeah. Danny McGrath that graduated from Dave High School in 1984? Yeah. Who's this? This is Billy Madison. You probably don't remember me, but I went to high school with you. I kind of gave you a hard time back then, and I did some things that I thought were funny at the time, but now I realize they were just mean and stupid, and just wanted to apologize, and I hope you forgive me. Yeah, sure. Don't worry about it. It's no problem. Wow, that's great. Well, I am sorry, and maybe we can get together sometime and have some coffee or something. Sure, I'd like that. Okay, well, I'll see you around. Okay. Bye.
Okay, so with that, he probably didn't realize that, the feelings were that strong. Well, so the next slide is just know your enemy sometimes, so just to acknowledge it. And I put a little picture here on the next slide of the enemy that's all our enemies, Satan. And then there's Jesus and his enemy, close by. Wasn't that? And we talked a little bit about just, is there a place for enemy language for the Christian? And again, somebody said, we didn't talk about our house and so forth, but Taylor says that enemy language really is being honest about life in a world that's broken and that can be often cruel. And we know that people are going to hurt us and we're going to hurt other people too. And so there might be people out there who we hurt or who consider us enemies, maybe because everything went well in your life or something, or somebody who resents you or is envious or jealous or whatever it is. But he talks about it's being honest about who we are, but also about other people and our capacities to hurt and to wound, and whether we know it or not. Sometimes it can be intentional, obviously, but sometimes it's just being stupid, like Bill Madison was. And I don't know, I think the key thing for us is just to come before God and be honest about it. And to be honest about the darkness that's in our hearts and let God's light shine in it. Because sometimes we'll find that there are those areas there we really didn't realize, and maybe I didn't want to acknowledge that, or that I had feelings that strong. And sometimes we can tell that our feelings are stronger than we might realize by an overreaction to something that happens to me a lot too. So in preparation for the first song that we're going to do today, which is 3, is just to say that the Psalms are filled with the word, or there are a couple words that are used for enemies. And I tried to find an exact number, maybe someone else could do it, but I could get numbers and they didn't always agree from how often the word enemy comes in the Old Testament. I know that something said like 284 times in 275 verses that word enemy comes, but I couldn't get one for just the Psalms. But we're gonna, and we've quoted him before, the former Old Testament professor at Columbia Seminary said that the Psalters awash in enemies. And these are two of the main words used. I had to look up how to, I don't know Hebrew, these are just the transliterations. So one is ayem, just someone who hates, ayem. And it's used in some of the Psalms that we do. And then sar, distress or foe, to someone who's against you. So those are the two main words that are used. And even Eugene Peterson, of course, God takes center stage in all Psalms, the primary subject, but a close second would be enemies, which is kind of surprising, but a lot of times it's deliverance from our enemies and so forth. So how do we deal with these Psalms when we know we're supposed to? Because some of them actually call for punishment upon these enemies. And when we get to it, hopefully we'll get to the last one today. It didn't take too long with Billy Madison, because it's a rough psalm that just asks for some awful things to happen to our enemies. But how do we deal with these Psalms, which is the Psalter, is a prayer book? How do we deal with these when we know that we're called to love our enemies? So that's something I think we need to struggle with today. But another thing that Taylor has said is, well, it is important to name our enemies, but then relinquish them to God instead of trying to vindicate ourselves, take charge. And something that Malcolm Guy said this summer on our course is that our sense of knowing whether something is just or unjust or right or wrong comes from God. God puts that in us, and we know kind of what's fair and unfair. It's unfair if the cheater gets accepted into Emory and the non-cheater doesn't, and the good student says, I know, I studied the whole time, I saw this person cheat his way or her way. So that's a gift from God. And so there is the right time for the righteous anger. And so that's okay if you find yourself feeling that. So let's move to the first psalm of the day. It's Psalm 3, and just a brief background on it. It's the background, we find David in a real time of crisis. It's a crisis in the heart in his life. And I went back and just to remind us a little bit, I didn't put all on it, so I skipped around from 2 Samuel just a reminder, his son Absalom. And Absalom is jealous, he's envious, and he says, if only I were one appointed judge in the land, then everyone who has a complaint or a case could come to me, and I would see that they receive justice. Also, whenever anyone approached him to bow down before him, Absalom would reach out his hand, take hold of him, and kiss it. And Absalom behaved this way for all the Israelites who came to the king asking for justice. And so he stole the hearts of the people of Israel. So that's what Absalom did. He stole a heart. That's a very powerful verse. Skip a little. A messenger came to David and said, the hearts of the people of Israel are with Absalom. David said to his officials who were with him in Jerusalem, come, we must flee, or none of us are going to escape from this. Immediately, or he'll quickly overtake us, bring ruin on us, and put the city to the sword. As King David approached Bahurim, a man from the same clan as Saul's family, came out from there. His name was Shimei, son of Gera, and he cursed and came out and pelted David and all the king's officials with stones, though all the troops and the special guard were on David's right and left. As he cursed, Shimei said, get out, you murderer, you scoundrel. The Lord repaid you for all the blood you shed in the household of Saul. In those places you've reigned, in whose place you have reigned. The Lord has given the kingdom into the hands of your son Absalom. You've come to ruin because you're a murderer. So keep that in mind as we're looking at Psalm 3. So, Psalm of David. When he fled from Absalom, Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver it. But you, O Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear, though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. Okay, just a little harshness there. Strike my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. A lot of times when I was first married, I hear my husband watch a football game and he'd go, break his neck. And I would think, oh, hardly he has a mother. He loves him. He's probably 18 or 19, but break his neck. That's horrible. This is a little bit of, and it still continues. This is a little bit of some hyperbole, but let's find out what's going on here. And here many are saying God won't deliver it. So that's a direct reference to Shimei and some of the other ones. They're saying, God's not going to rescue you. And it's a painful thought to David, I imagine, that other people think he's beyond God's help. You're beyond, what if someone said, you're beyond God's help? God's not going to come save you. God's not going to come rescue you. And also that they're thinking, you deserve this. Because of your past sin. So many are saying, you really think God's going to come through for you? So that's really the context for this. Maybe God could do it, but maybe God's going to be unwilling to do it. But then what do you think David really wants here? And it might have to do with strike our enemies on the jaw and break their teeth. Just think of what is bothering him in the first couple of verses. He wants deliverance, yes. If they break his teeth, they won't be able to say anything. Okay, we'll have to shut up. So we're talking. So a lot of this is poetic language. It's harsh. Does he really mean physically break teeth, the jaw, and all that? There's a figure of speech, but it gets a point across. He wants to be delivered from all of that. And how could that happen? Well, just shut him up. A little hyperbole. Deliver. He wants an end. He wants an end to these enemies, and he does want them. They're speaking. They've got the power somehow to speak maliciously, and he wants that to stop. Stop doing that because they're saying that. It's really getting to them. Make them shut up. Did you ever have to, as your children or, I can remember as a kid, one of your brothers picking on you or something, Mom, make him stop, make him shut up. We weren't allowed to say shut up, but we probably weren't either, it's a horrible word. Well, who is God to David? What do you glean from this? Because that's what he goes back to.
Yeah.
These people are doing this, but who is God to David? And David, David's had a complicated relationship with God, hasn't he? But sometimes we do too. But through it all, David is a man of faith, isn't he? And David knows who God is. And what is it that David knows about God that you see? Who is God to him?
God loves it.
God loves it. He knows that.
He's a shield to it.
He's a what?
Shield.
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 Yeah, he's a shield. He uses this
Protector.
kind of battle language. He's a shield, a protector.
Lift up his head.
He lifts up his head.
My glory. You are
Yes.
my glory, not me.
Yes, good. He knows his place before God. Anything else?
God answers him when he calls.
God, and that's important, isn't it? What if God wasn't there? And at other times we probably all felt like, where's God? But God answers him, and he knows God's going to answer, because God's answered in the past. Sometimes the answer might not be what he wants to hear, but God answers it. Anything else? The next slide, I wrote down a few things, it's kind of echoes a lot what you said. He knows, he's got confidence in God. He knows that God's going to help him. This last point, you're a shield around me. That's a strong declaration. You don't need a shield, not a great image. And again, there's a lot of things that David's done in the past weren't glorious, but still, God lifts his head. Oh, wow, I love that idea of God lifting his head up. And as you mentioned, God saves him. He hears him and he blesses him. I can't remember if I got this from Malcolm, God or not, but God's the one who blesses him. And one of the blessings is he allows him to sleep. Isn't that a blessing? I mean, have you had, I know we've all had those fitful times when so much is going on and maybe God gives us rest. And you wake up and maybe the things that seem so horrible in your face, you've got a new perspective on them. And it's also a blessing that God wakes you up again. I'm just so thankful for the gift of sleep, especially being retired, and have more hours to add to it. And it's just so nice. It's not, no, I'm up again. It actually feels good to get up. And I like that. The God who's going to sustain us while we sleep is going to sustain us while we're awake and in the midst of our difficulties. If God's for us, then who can be against us? God's the one who delivers them. And I think it's good for us to think, who's God to us? Do we see God as our shield of glory, the one who blesses us? And something that Malcolm Guy pointed out, he said, sometimes, well, a lot of times, we can tell God that this is too much for me to handle. It's just too much. And I think we spin our wheels sometimes trying to handle things that God may want us to handle. And let God handle it instead. To let it go, say, this is too much. Deliver me. And then he goes to sleep. Only God can handle it. So that's that one. Let's see what Malcolm says in his poem about it. I found that his poems always seem to calm. They're very calming. Even when we get to our last song, they're calming when there's some parts of that last one. That you may find your peace in his goodwill. Call out to him and tell him your fear, for he will hear you from his holy hill. He knows how many ills, both far and near, oppress your soul, and how they multiply these obstacles and problems. How you veer from one side to the other, from one lie to yet another, till there's nothing true. Just let it go for now. Don't even try. So lie down and rest. Let him look after you. And in the morning, when you rise again, let him lift your head and change your view. Replenish, renovate, and sustain his long, slow blessings in your growing soul, till troubles cease and only joys remain. Anything strike you as beautiful there that you could latch on to?
All of it.
Oh,
Let him look after you.
good, I like that one too, let him look after you. Why do we sometimes want to run around and we have to look out for ourselves, and if we just run out and rest and let him look after us? Anything else?
Sometimes when you lie down and you sleep at night, you get really dark and you're really tired. And you just go to sleep, in the morning, everything looks better, because you were so tired, you couldn't see straight.
Yes. No, that's a great point. Anything else?
I liked phrasing sustain his long, slow blessings in your growing soul.
Okay, yes. So a long, slow blessing. I like that. Yeah.
So the year that we got married, Dan's father died, Dan's mother died, and my mother died. It was the hardest year I've ever had. My grandchildren only grew up knowing my father, who was World War II, like he would take them, and shoot pistols with them.
Right.
But it was, I thought I'd never get over it. But my mother was not a Christian. She had to go to church every time the door opened. And when she went to Our Lady of Perpetual Care when she was dying, and the nuns there witnessed to her.
That's a lot to have dealt with. The first year of marriage, that's a lot. But God, sorry through it. Okay, Psalm 18, next slide. It is one of the longest psalms in the Psalter. It's the third longest. Well, only three are longer, so it's the fourth longest. But we will get through it. And again, the occasion of this song, it got from the photo director of music to give us a little background. So this is considered a song of David. He sang to the Lord the words of the song after the Lord delivered him from the hand of his enemies and from the hand of Saul. He said, David had a complicated relationship with Saul. To say the least, right?
Talk about
David married Saul's daughter, and he was very close to Jonathan, the son, and but there was some rivalry there, and Saul wasn't always the easiest person to be around, and so David spent time fleeing from Saul. Saul was the first king of Israel. There was a lot of jealousy and so forth. So they think this is, and I didn't have time to write it down, but if you go back to 2 Samuel 22, 1 through 51, you'll see some of these same words that are written, but here just a different context. So I'll read them because I've got all the things here if you're okay with that. I love you, Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I call to the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and I've been saved from my enemies. The cords of death entangled me. The torrents of destruction overwhelmed me. The cords of the grave coiled around me. The snares of death confronted me. In my distress, I called to the Lord. I cried to my God for help. From his temple he heard my voice. If my cry came before him into his ears, the earth trembled and quaked, and the foundations of the mountains shook. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils, consuming fire came from his mouth, burning coals blazed out of him. He parted the heavens and came down, dark clouds were under his feet. He mounted the cherubim and flew. He soared on the wings of the wind. He made darkness his covering, his canopy around him, the dark rain clouds in the sky. Out of the brightness of his presence, clouds advanced with hailstorms, stones, and bolts of lightning. The Lord thundered from heaven, the voice of the Most High was sounded. He shot his arrows and scattered the enemy with great bolts of lightning. He routed them. The valleys of the sea were exposed, and the foundations of the earth lay bare as you rebuked, Lord, at the blast of breath from your nostrils. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me out of deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemy, from my foes who were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my disaster, but the Lord was my support. He brought me out into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. The Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanness of my hands, he's rewarded me. For I've kept the ways of the Lord. I'm not guilty of turning from my God. All his laws are before me. I have not turned away from his decrees. I've been blameless before him and have kept myself from sin. The Lord has rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands in his sight. To the faithful, you show yourself faithful. To the blameless, you show yourself blameless. To the pure, you show yourself pure. But to the devious, you show yourself shrewd. You save the humble, but bring low those whose eyes are haughty. You, Lord, keep my lamp burning. My God turns my darkness into light. With your help, I can advance against the truth. With my God, I can scale a wall. As for God, his way is perfect. The Lord's word is flawless. He shields all who take refuge in him. For who is God besides the Lord? And who is a rock except our God? It's God who arms me with strength and keeps my way secure. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He causes me to stand on the heights. He trains my hand for battle. My arms can bend a bow of bronze. You make your saving help my shield, and your right hand sustains me. Your help has made me great. You provide a broad path for my feet, so my ankles do not give way. I pursued, my enemies and overtook them. I did not turn back till they were destroyed. I crushed them so that they could not rise. They fell beneath my feet. You armed me with strength for battle. You humbled my adversaries before me. You made my enemies turn their backs in flight, and I destroyed my foes. They cried for help, but there was no one to save them. To the Lord, but he did not answer. I beat them as fine as wind-blown dust. I trampled them like blood in the streets. You have delivered me from the attacks of the people. You've made me the head of nations. People I did not know now serve me. Foreigners cower before me. As soon as they hear of me, they obey me. They lose all heart. They lose all heart. They come trembling from their strongholds. Next, the Lord lives. Praise be to my rock. Exalted be God, my Savior. He is the God who avenges me, who subdues nations under me, who saves me from my enemies. You exalted me above my foes. From a violent man, you rescued me. Therefore, I will praise you, Lord, among the nations. I will sing the praises of your name. He gives us keen, great victories. He shows unfailing love to his anointed, to David and to his descendants forever. Well, let's, as Taylor has said about the psalm, that this isn't a psalm for polite company. Okay? It's not a psalm for people who only want things to be nice and for people to get along. Why can't we all just get along? Nor is it a psalm for those who wish to remain indifferent to the harsh realities of the world, or to just deny the visceral desires of the human heart. They're not pretty no times. It's a song for people who look at the world for what it is. It's a full of broken people, dark forces, and harsh conditions. Taylor also says, though, our faith happens in a hostile world, not in the mystical ambient light of a Gothic cathedral. You just picture out a light shining in, and all's great, and probably some music in the background and all. He says, faith works itself out in the midst of our enemies, not in the silent chambers of the soul, or only in the company of folks who were poorly intended. My intentions, that was just a poor intention. No, call it what it is sometimes. I love, when some of these celebrities or athletes have done something wrong. It's like, that's not who I am. Name it, that is who you are, that's what you did, okay? But, I only killed once, that's really not who I am. Just ask my kindergarten teacher, I was really great. So let's go back to the beginning of the song, let's look at it together. So this, says, could have been written after the short aftermath of Saul's death, and sometime in between, as he's receiving the throne and two. It begins with a call to praise. So that's good. This is not, it's praiseworthy. It's considered a song of praise, even though it deals with the enemies. But what do you think the tone is in this verse? The first 3 verses.
I hear a lot of relief in this song. It's like there was tremendous pressure on me. I was in danger, and now it's all taken care
Okay, very good.
But he's praising the Lord for his deliverance.
Okay.
Definitely has, given it to the Lord. I mean, if he's running for Saul, David would not kill Saul because Saul was God's anointed. And Saul kept trying to kill David, and David had several chances to kill him, and he refused to kill him. He sent him a note. With a piece of his robe, I could have killed you, but you are the Lord's anointed. So David proved faithful through all. He was just running away from Saul. That's the only unfaithful thing he did.
Right. No, that's an excellent point, because he did have many opportunities, and he didn't. And faithful to, because he was a king, and maybe it wasn't for him to do. He really didn't feel like it, and maybe that's something we can take from that. So at the beginning, he's very triumphant. Again, this declaration, it's a floodgate of praise again. All of the shield, the horn, all of these, stronghold, and I don't know if you've listened to any of the music that I just listened to some of it this week, and some of the songs that Daddy's put together are just beautiful. We probably all know other songs too together with this. I call the Lord's worthy of praise. I've been saved from my enemies. So if you want to be saved from my enemies, the Lord will blessed be the rock and the God of my salvation. And so if we move on to the next slide, verse 6 and following, we see a lot of bold images, and just a reminder that we are dealing with poetry here. And there's some striking metaphors. And if we notice, the language is very poetic of what he's talking about. I don't think we're supposed to take this literally at all. So we get a dramatic deliverance. In my distress, I called to the Lord. I called for him. Once again, he heard my voice. That seems to be a consistent theme with David and God, right? He talks to God, and God, he heard my voice. My cry came before him into his ears. And what kind of response do we get? This is a very dramatic deliverance. But what do you think he's saying? What's the point that he's trying to get across by saying the earth trembled and quaked, the foundations of the mountain shook?
the power of God exploded from his sake.
Okay, that's great. That's a good quote. You said exploded for David's sake, the power of God. I like that. Anything else? He's talking about a storm here too, isn't he?
Right. Yes.
And it's quite dramatic, but it is showing the power of God. God can cause all that. What about smoke rising from his nostrils? What a vivid picture is that?
So like a bull.
Okay. Burning coal. Fire came from his mouth. Burning coal. Does that really happen? Okay. What's he saying? What's,
God's deliverance,
yes.
all overwhelming. I mean, it's, you know, strong like fire.
And God's angry for his sake.
God is angry for his sake. And that's okay, isn't it?
Yes.
God's affected by our suffering. God's affected when God's people suffer, I think, and God, especially by the hands of oppressors. So that's definitely a righteous anger, righteous indignation. And to help David, he moves heaven and earth in a sense, doesn't he? You know, that's what he's doing now. The cherubim flew. Does this mean he's coming quickly to deliver him? To save him? Well, it's majestic. But look at the hailstorms, the bolts of lightning. But that's a language of poetry. To express things that it just wouldn't be as interesting to say, God is really powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good and that's true, right? It's like, yes, it's feeling, it's like, whoa, can you feel the wind blow? And he shot arrows and scattered the enemy. That's something. Don't you wish you had someone shooting? Then God can do that for us too. Can shoot arrows. Yeah, I guess when I thought that, I thought it made negative. I hadn't really thought that yet, but it's like voodoo, I guess. People with voodoo also can't break it.
I love that verse 19. He brought me out into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me in the middle of all this smoke and
Yeah, that's
felt, yeah, lifted up, saved.
that's great. That one is worth underlining, is just or tattoo.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think we're all probably past the tattoo. I don't know. Anyway, he was cool enough for that. He rescued me, he delighted in me. Again, delight. I love that. He reached out from on high, took hold of me, drew me out of deep waters. Just that image. Because we've all been in deep waters before, haven't we? And to know that you've got the God you can count on who's going to reach down, he's reaching down from where he is, from on high, and drew me out of deep waters. He rescued me. This is a rescue operation. It's a Coast Guard. It's better than the Coast Guard coming after. The Lord was my support and spacious. What's next slide, verses 20. Yeah, he had a long season of affliction under Saul. And as Carol pointed out, a lot of opportunities strike against him, but he does them. And what in 20, what does he? What's he say? I mean, you could read this and say, "Boy, David's actually prideful." But is that what's going on here? What the Lord's dealt with me according to my righteousness. What do y'all make of that? I kept the ways of the Lord.
I think it sounds like David is very self-righteous in this. But what I think he's really saying is that I have refrained from attacking Saul because I think that's God's will. I'm convinced that God doesn't want me to do that.
Okay.
And in response, God has taken care of David.
Okay. Okay. Good. He's been rewarded according to his righteousness. And it could be, I read something that says he's not righteous because of anything he's done. It's like God's imputed that righteousness on him.
Right.
So it's the same with us. If we say, well, we're righteous, that doesn't mean that we have achieved that and could put a gold star. No, we've been made clean. To faithfully show yourself, to the deed is you show yourself shrewd. I read that means twisted kind of, that's an interesting verse. Any thoughts on that? To the pure you show yourself pure, the deed is you say the humble bring one of those sides of heart. I read something that referred to how God kind of said that the spirit, an evil spirit, to torment Saul because of some of Saul's evil ways. Saul really had no interest in serving God like he should have, and all that. That was an example of that. Well, the Lord, to keep on that burning, turns my darkness into light. He used all this military imagery too. With your help, I can advance the truth. I can scale a wall. Leap over a wall is the one translation. Eugene Peterson has a book called, I don't know if you read it, it's called Leap Over a Wall. And he obviously lists it from this verse. So I have it, I probably skimmed it in the past, but so God's way is perfect. God strengthens him to defeat his enemies. God strengthens us to defeat our enemies. He uses military language, but it's not what we would, but he's able to flee. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. You read that? What's that emotional book?
Hannah Bernard, yeah,
Yeah,
feet like men's feet.
yeah. But always, your help has made me great. Anyone have a different translation for that? Your help has made me great. For verse 35, your hands and saints, your help has made me great.
What verse is that?
It's verse 35.
My translation says that gentleness makes me great.
Okay,
What is that?
I like that because I was reading some commentary and I didn't know what translation. What translation is that?
It's the New American Standard.
Okay, your gentleness has made me great.
This one says you stoop down to make the bread.
I like that, your gentleness a lot. 37 on. You arm me with strength, you humble my adversaries, you made my enemies turn their back. So just remind us, how was David delivered from Saul? We already know he didn't kill him himself.
An enemy of the people that were fighting, and Saul and Jonathan were killed. It was bad.
Okay. And I was reading there's some like fall on a sword. But David didn't do it.
No,
As
they
you pointed out.
were in bad. Yeah, Saul fell on the sword because his aide would not kill him.
Yeah. So, and David even agreed, Saul's death, when he pointed out. So, but you delivered me. You've made me the head of nations. And there seems some humility there too, doesn't it? You've made me head of nations. People I don't know now serve me. I don't think he's saying that in an arrogant way, do you? And then he concludes, and this is just praise. Saul tried to kill him a number of times.
Yes.
From that javelin. You, from a violent man, you rescued me. Therefore, I'll praise you. He gives his king great victories. He shows unfailing love to his opponent. David is God's king. I think he sees that. He's not a king of his own making. All right, any comments? Here, let's go to Malcolm's. I already kind of went over the next slide. Let's go to Malcolm's. I will behold you and be satisfied, my strength, my rock, my buckler, and my shield. You came to rescue me. I saw you ride the wind's swift wings. I saw the waters yield to you as you reached down to lift me out of the overwhelming panic where I reeled and flailed in fear of death. You heard my shout, my anguished cry for help, and carried me and held me safe and put my fears to rout. And now you give me back my liberty. You strengthen my weak hands and set me free, and set my feet to dancing lightly as a deer, as free as any in the forest, and as fleet. Soon you will call and draw me in your love to that still place where earth and heaven meet. You feel calm? I feel like I want a cup of tea. Just soothe.
Long ice cream.
I love that. Draw me in your love to that still place. Well, rest on that, with that line for a minute, because we're getting ready to go on to Psalm 109. So hold on tight, okay? Buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride, Psalm 109. It's called an imprecatory psalm, right? Not a word I've probably used more than twice in my life, imprecatory, but it just means these are psalms that call upon God to judge, invoke judgment or to curse your enemies. And this is not a G-rated song. It's troubling, and it's hard to know how do you pray this song? That's the question, if it's a psalter, and how do you pray this in the congregation? It shocks modern readers when you get to some of the specifics. There's a lot that C.S. Lewis says about this song, and I just put one. I like that. The spirit of hatred strikes us in the face like heat from a furnace mat. It just hits us. But he says some other things about it. A lot of people like to pretend that, well, can we just pick these bits out? Do we really have to, Psalm 109, we don't really have to go through our whole life. We don't really have to deal with this song. But it's in there, it's in the song. There are 30 ways to destroy your enemy. It could even be more than that. I didn't count them all. But really, it's how do we pray such a song? And we can't pick and choose. We really can't get rid of it. We can't just pick out. I remember a colleague of mine a number of years ago, she goes, the Bible just leaves me cold. I just don't like the Old Testament. I just don't feel good when I read it. I want happy, pretty things. And I tried to point her to some nice, praiseworthy psalms, and there's so much beauty in the Bible, but maybe she had gotten stuck on Psalm 109. That was the first, yes.
So what the note on mine says is that we can tell God our true feelings and desires.
And desire, okay.
So it's kind of like a permission. Just
Yes.
Spit it all out.
Yes, and remember, these are prayers, and maybe we can see ourselves in these, and the things that he's wishing upon them, but it's just an honest thing to show us maybe the depths of our depravity sometimes. I don't think we might not really say, just shoot an arrow right there. I do remember one of my good friends that we were living in Chapel Hill, and I remember I broke up with her right before Valentine's Day. I wasn't dating anyone at the time. We were just at a coffee shop, and she goes, I just want to throw plastic explosives at all the couples. And I thought, now she was the nicest person. If you met her, she would never dare do it. But in her mind, she probably was envious. She's like, it's not fair. This guy just dumped me the day before Valentine's. I already bought him his favorite cologne, and darn it, plastic explosives. Yes. It does correspond to human reality. And I think we said we need to name our enemies. We need to name the sinful ways of our heart and our own violent tendencies. Not, hopefully God would stop us. We wouldn't really, but the idea is so God can step in and do something about it. As we saw with David, David didn't have to kill Saul. we need to let God step in and deal with it. And we do want to strike down our enemies sometimes, and it's hard to love our enemies. But the key thing as we see these Psalms is we need to talk to God about it. The sin with our anger.
Being that we are all such nice people.
Of course.
And may not have human enemies, but we have other kind of enemies like fear or jealousy or hate. They can be.
So
Yes.
that's great. And I don't know if you're going to touch on that next. Well, not enemies of God, but yes, absolutely. In fact, when I put those pictures like the Duke Blue Devil and the Fanatic, I was going to put a picture myself there too. I just probably want to lift it up because sometimes we can be our own enemies and yeah, just that depth. But so let's look at Psalm 109. Wishing curses. Oh, also, I just wanted to say about there's this dating app called Tinder. Have you read about it or whatever? It's one of those dating apps. I don't think it's not a good one. Okay. But no, I know enough about it, but I just read a thing about a woman who got swindled in Britain because she met someone through this dating app, and he's called the Tinder Swindler. And what he did, he posed as this son of a rich diamond merchant, and he wanted and dined her, but then he would take her places and he would say, well, because of who I am, I can't let my name get out on my credit card because that would be unsafe, so can you pay for it? And, I'll write your check or whatever, but anyway, dumb girl, but somehow she ended up like 225,000 pounds, so about, not $500,000, but whatever, debt. So, and he got 5 years for it. No, 5 months. And she said, I hope he gets COVID and dies. So, you kind of get it, but never, we could play the game, never have I ever wished evil on someone. But we're not okay. We're not never have ever proud. That's probably a good thing. But let's look at this song. Does other people want to read it, or is it too tricky with the voices and the recording?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just do it. So here's David.
Someone on Zoom could read it.
Someone on Zoom can read. See, right now I'm not even seeing my Zoom people.
We have Betty McKay, we have Pat Maddox, we have Luan, we have Laura, we have Cindy.
Does anyone like to read the first 5 verses?
Betty, you're on mute.
Who's wanting to read?
She's trying. Okay, she can't find the mute button. It's okay, Betty.
I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead, just yet. So, my God whom I praise, do not remain silent, for people who are wicked and deceitful have opened their mouths against me. They have spoken against me with lying tongues. With words of hatred they surround me. They attack me without cause. In return for my friendship, they accuse me. But I'm a man of prayer. They repay me evil for good and hatred for my friendship. Appoint someone evil to oppose my enemy. Let an accuser stand at his right hand. When he's tried, let him be found guilty, and may his prayers condemn him. Here we go. May his days be few. May another take his place in leadership. May his children be fatherless and his wife a widow. May his children be wandering beggars. May they be driven from their ruling homes. May a creditor seize all he has. May strangers plunder the fruits of his labor. May no one extend kindness to him or take pity on his fatherless children. This is bad. May his descendants be cut off, their names blotted out from the next generation. May the iniquity of his fathers be remembered before the Lord. May the sin of his mother never be blotted out. May their sins always remain before the Lord, that he may blot out their name from the earth. For he never thought of doing a kindness, but hounded the deaf, the poor, and the needy, and the brokenhearted. He loved to pronounce a curse. May it come back on him. He found no pleasure in blessing. May it be far from him. He wore his cursing as his garment. Great language. It entered in his body like water, into his bones like oil. May it be like a cloak wrapped around him, like a belt tied around him forever. May this be the Lord's payment to my accusers, to those who speak evil of me. But you, sovereign Lord, help me for your name's sake. Out of the goodness of your love, deliver me. For I am poor and needy, and my heart is wounded within me. I fade away like an evening shadow. I'm shaken off like a locust. My knees give way from fasting. My body is thin and gaunt. I'm an object of scorn to my accusers. When they see me, they shake their heads. Help me, Lord, my God. Save me according to your failing love. Let them know that it is your hand, that you, Lord, have done it. While they curse, may you bless. May those who attack me be put to blame and shame, but may your servant rejoice. May my accusers be clothed with disgrace and wrapped in shame as in a cloak. With my mouth, I will greatly extol the Lord. In the great throng of worshipers, I will praise him. For he stands at the right hand of the needy to save their lives from those who would condemn them. Let's go back to the beginning, unpack this a little bit. Yes.
I noticed reading my version of it, this one song has very little changes, very few differences.
Few differences?
Very few. I mean, it's almost
Okay.
verbatim. Especially when he gets into all the evil things he wants done to his enemies. It's amazing that this particular one is very consistent.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation where you knew people were talking about you in a bad way? And I mean, there's something, and maybe they're saying untruths. That's hard to take, isn't it? And especially with someone who's supposed to be a friend. So people open their mouths against me. That doesn't feel good. They've spoken against me lying. It's nothing worse than someone lying about you. Well, maybe there are other things worse. But when you gotta try to defend yourself. With hatred, words of hatred, there's no reason for this attack. Sometimes maybe we've done things where we deserve, we need to be confronted, but it sounds like there's no reason for this. And he's been a friend to these. But how is David gonna handle it? I mean, he is praying through his anger, which I think that we're called to pray through our anger and to pour our hearts to God, which he's doing. What anything strike you about this? I mean, just David, that's a pretty long list of things he wants to happen. Okay? But is he just sort of voicing what we all feel at times? I mean, is this just a long list to say, I just want, this person has wronged me, and it's not right.
Yeah.
And I'm really angry about it. And God, could you come help me? Could you come to my defense for this?
That's what you forgot to do.
Okay, yeah,
You take care of it. Lord. You take care of it.
yes.
Don't let me do it.
Don't let me do it. Yes, that's good. Glennis, would your hand up a minute?
No, I said he's asking for God's justice.
Oh, okay.
God's justice, not his own.
And
Okay, yes.
And it ends that way, because he is a greatly extolled Lord. He stands at the right hand, my right hand, in the middle of all this to save him from all who condemn him.
Okay.
So it's just, he feels secure.
Feel secure in that, which is great because it's okay for us to ask God
Yes.
to act on our behalf, to do this. We give our enemies to God, and I don't think David's not plotting here, is he? He's not saying, well, tomorrow I'm gonna make sure the children are beggars. But that's horrible.
It is
Can you visualize the little children?
I think he trusts God to help. He has that history that he knows God is going to
Yes.
intervene.
Yes, and that's probably not exactly what God's gonna help, but he's not plotting, but he's praying.
Yeah.
He's praying, and I think that's what we need to do, yes.
I can just see, us using some of this language when thinking about, people in Afghanistan or in other places in the world, and even in the States. But I can see us praying this kind of stuff.
Yes, yes. Even though the language seems harsh to us, it's shocking, so should it be taken out of the Bible?
No.
Should we avoid it? No more than we should just avoid that, because it may come back on him, karma. Deserves that, okay, yes, may he get what he deserves, but I love how, this is 21, but you, sovereign Lord, kind of switches, but you. And that's really where he comes to, and in verse 22, for I'm poor and needy, my heart is wounded within me. And isn't that often what's behind some of our anger, this kind of calling out that our hearts are wounded?
Yes.
We're wounded if someone hurts us, we're wounded if someone speaks ill of us. I think that's where it's coming from. My heart's wounded. I fade away like an evening shadow. I'm an obstinate storm. So help me, Lord. Help me. He knows who he needs to turn to. And I think that's what we need too. That's what I need to turn to. I can't wish all this stuff on people.
When we were reading it just now, I must have read this sometime after having some lies being spread about me, because I can remember reading it and thinking, boy, that is the way I feel. I'm so glad to see that. Oh God, it's just, yeah. Until I got to those poor children, I said, well, skip that part. Let's not do that. But go ahead and don't let anyone extend kindness to that person. That's great. And I was going along checking off
You're
things.
going.
Yeah. It truly gave me comfort,
Yeah.
It really
Okay.
gave me comfort, except I was horrified I thought to myself, well, at least I'm not as bad as David is, getting having this
Right.
horrible stuff happen to the children.
But it gives us the freedom to be angry. I think when we do the anger part, and we're making sense of it, but we take all that to the Lord. We take that and we take these feelings. But ultimately, it's in the next slide. There's an appeal to, and we rest in the character of God. We rest in the character of God. God stands at the right hand of the needy. And so he's mad because his other person wants, ignore the poor and, probably drove a Range Rover and nothing wrong with the Range Rover, okay? But, and didn't give anything to the poor. That's the thing. But he stands at the right hand of the Savior. So, but he's going to keep praising God. So we're about to conclude here. Maybe it'll be time to get any questions or comments, so maybe might want to be in groups. So here's Malcolm's response. The water of my life may turn to wine. The psalmist turns it into vinegar. Such is his bitterness and his design to wish the worst upon his foe, to bear down on him with vengeance, and to see his children suffer too. No pity here, only the anger of an injury unhealed and an injustice unforgiven. My heart, he cries, is wounded deep within me. I go hence like a shadow. I'm driven away. And so he cries aloud, oh, save me. And my heart too is wounded, broken, riven. I also ask, O Lord, that you should save me. Save me from the bitterness, from my bitterness, and heal my heart, that even for my foes I might ask mercy. Next line, that's the line that I just want to hold on to. I want to lift that, that even for my foes I might ask mercy. Isn't that beautiful? Only God can enable us to do that. So we reconcile this. You know, we've heard said, shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. We don't want that resentment. You've probably heard this before. You know, drink a glass of poison and wait for your enemies to die. I really don't feel good. Does it? Release the justice that we want, with. The freedom that we gain from releasing that need for justice, that's worth the loss of that vindication. And again, just something from Peterson, forgiveness is the last word. I take our interest in eliminating the tension between justice and forgiveness by taking justice off the table. But I'm interested in reintroducing the priority of this Jesus pray forgiveness into our lives. In matters of sin and injustice and evil, the last prayer of Jesus said back to that, forgive them, they know not what they do. That's not for justice, but that's for forgiveness. Assuming that the criminal crucified next to Jesus was receiving a just death sentence, and he said as much himself, the criminal will die for his crime. But forgiveness trumps justice, and it always does. And that's from Peterson, a series of lectures from Tell All the Truth, Tell Us Slam. So,
Tell all the truth, but
what?
you said it's from tell all the truth, but
Oh, Tell All the Truth, but Tell It Slant. Yeah, a series of lectures. I took a class on that. You said that before. It was really a good course. He talked about parables in it, actually. But what does this look like in our lives? What would this look like in our lives? What should it look like in our lives? That even for our foes, that we might ask mercy. Any final thoughts on the lesson today? Yes.
I'm a first child, and so I want to always have my attitudes be the right attitude. So I will bury my wrong attitude so that I can convince myself that I'm righteous.
Okay.
And so this is really helpful for me because it helps me to have integrity and not be a hypocrite.
And not what?
Be a hypocrite.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It helps me, once I really acknowledge how I'm feeling, then I can bring it to God. But if I'm burying it, He knows it's there, but I don't.
Okay. Good. So the step would be to acknowledge it. Yes. And then take it to God. I think that's the problem. Well, both are problems. Not acknowledging it and not taking it to God. So we're both important. Any other final thoughts? Yes.
I have a question about forgiveness trumps justice. It can be taken two ways.
Okay.
One, that God's forgiveness is even more important than His justice, or my forgiveness is better than the way I want it. It is trumps the way I want to do justice. It's just a question. Where do you guys think that fits?
I'm not sure. I think I can see it both ways too.
The question comes because I'm teaching about justice next week. So where does this fit?
Right.
Don't worry.
Well, the criminal does die for the crime.
Oh.
Any comments, response to that?
Considering it, talking about Jesus forgiving the man on the cross, ultimately in the eternity, forgiveness did trump justice because today he was with Jesus in paradise.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good. I think that's a good way to end here. I will close us with a short prayer, so you can get on, but thank you. Dear God, help us to be honest about our own hearts. Teach us to be merciful to others, for you've shown us great mercy. Help us to love our enemies, Lord, but to release them to you. Help us to bring our enemies to the foot of the cross and let you handle it. Let you deal with it. Because we trust you. You are our sword, our buckler, our shield. And we know that you answer when we call to you. Thank you for that. God is a kingdom and power and glory. Amen.